I stand here at Gate 12, watching the fluorescent lights flicker overhead, their harsh brightness making everything feel surreal. The announcement echoes through the terminal. Final boarding call for Flight 847 to Denver. My boarding pass trembles in my arthritic hands, the paper already dampened by my nervous perspiration. I've been clutching it for hours, but now it feels like holding onto a lifeline that someone is trying to cut. Sarah's voice cuts through the ambient noise of the airport like a blade. "Margaret, we need to talk." She doesn't use Mom. Never has in the 15 years since she married my son David. Always Margaret. Like I'm some distant acquaintance, rather than the woman who raised the man she claims to love. I turn toward her, my carry-on bag bumping against my leg, and I can already sense something is wrong. There's a coldness in her eyes that I've seen before, but never this intense. David stands beside her, his posture uncomfortable, his gaze fixed somewhere over my shoulder. My heart begins to race, that familiar flutter that my doctor warned me about. "Stress," he said. "You need to manage your stress, Margaret." "What is it, dear?" I ask, though the endearment feels forced now. I can taste the metallic tang of anxiety on my tongue, mixing with the airport coffee I had earlier. The terminal suddenly feels too loud, too bright, too everything. Sarah glances around, as if checking to make sure we're not being overheard. The gate area is bustling with travelers, families reuniting, business people hunched over laptops. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that mine is about to shatter. "We've decided you can't come on this trip," she says, her words delivered with the efficiency of someone discussing the weather. "It's family only." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually step backward, my hand instinctively reaching for something to steady myself. I find the cold metal of a chair. I don't understand. I'm family. I'm David's mother." David finally looks at me, and what I see there breaks something deep inside my chest. It's not love. Not the warmth I remember from the little boy who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms. It's irritation, mixed with something that looks almost like amusement. "Mom, you know how you can be," he says, and there's a lightness to his voice that doesn't match the gravity of the moment. Sarah's family is different. They're more sophisticated. The word hangs in the air between us like an accusation. Sophisticated. As if my 47 years of marriage to his father, my 30-year career as a school librarian, my dedication to raising him as a single mother after his father's death, somehow makes me unsuitable for their company. "I paid for this trip," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. The truth of it feels important, like a fact that might change everything if I just say it loudly enough. "The credit card is in my name. I booked the hotel rooms." Sarah's laugh is sharp, cutting. "Oh, Margaret, you really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. It's about fit. You just don't fit with our crowd." The boarding announcement comes again, more urgent this time. "Last call for Flight 847 to Denver. All passengers must be aboard." I watch as other families move past us, luggage in tow, children chattering excitedly about their destinations. A young mother helps her elderly father with his carry-on, their faces warm with affection. The contrast feels deliberate, like the universe is showing me what I'll never have. "David," I say, turning to my son, my voice cracking with the weight of 37 years of love and sacrifice. "Please, I don't understand what's happening." He shrugs, actually shrugs, as if dismissing decades of our relationship. "Maybe it's time you learn to be more independent, Mom. You rely on us too much." The irony is crushing. I've been independent my entire adult life. I raised him alone after his father died when David was 12. I worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I've lived alone for 5 years since he moved across the country, managing my own finances, my own health, my own everything. But somehow, Accepting their invitation to join them on a family vacation makes me dependent. The plane is boarding, Sarah says, checking her phone with the same attention she might give to a grocery list. We need to go. I watch in stunned silence as they turn away from me. David's laughter echoes back as Sarah whispers something in his ear. Probably about me. Probably about how difficult I'm being. The sound of his laughter is the worst part. It's not the bitter laugh of someone caught in an impossible situation. It's genuine amusement, as if my pain is entertaining to him. The gate agent's voice crackles over the intercom. Final boarding call. Gate 12 is now closed to additional passengers. I stand there, frozen, as the reality sinks in. They're really leaving me here, in an airport, 4 hours from home, with nowhere to go and no one to call. A young woman in a wheelchair rolls past me, accompanied by an airline employee. Don't worry, Mrs. Chen, the employee says gently. We'll get you sorted out. Family travel can be complicated, but we'll make sure you're comfortable. The kindness in her voice toward a stranger makes my abandonment feel even more acute. I sink into the nearest chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. The plastic seat is cold against my back, and I can feel the weight of my purse on my lap like an anchor. An elderly man sitting across from me notices my distress. He's wearing a veteran's cap and has kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. You all right, ma'am? He asks, leaning forward slightly. I start, but the words stick in my throat. How do you explain to a stranger that your own son just abandoned you in an airport? How do you say those words out loud without falling apart completely? Travel troubles? He continues, his voice gentle. I've been there. Sometimes family trips don't go as planned. I nod, not trusting my voice. The man's kindness feels like a small light in the darkness that's closing around me. I wonder if he can see the tears I'm fighting back, if my devastation is written across my face for everyone to read. Harold, he says, extending his hand. Harold Peterson. Been flying for 60 years and I've seen just about everything. Margaret. I manage, shaking his hand. His grip is warm and steady, and for a moment I feel less alone. Margaret Williams. Well, Margaret, what gate are you supposed to be at? Maybe I can help you figure out where you need to go. The question breaks something loose inside me. I don't know, I whisper, and then louder. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Harold's expression shifts to concern. Did you miss your flight? These schedules can be confusing. No, I take a shuddering breath. My family left without me. My son and his wife. They decided I shouldn't come on the trip. The words hang in the air between us, and I can see Harold processing what I've said. His face darkens with an anger that's not directed at me, and somehow that makes me feel validated in a way I haven't felt in months. They left you here? At the airport? His voice carries a disbelief that mirrors my own. What kind of people do that to their own family? The kind who think I'm not sophisticated enough, I say, surprised by the bitterness in my own voice. The kind who think I'm an embarrassment. Harold shakes his head slowly. Ma'am, I've been around this world more times than I can count, and I can tell you that character isn't about sophistication. It's about how you treat people, especially the ones who can't do anything for you. A gate agent approaches us, her expression professionally concerned. Excuse me, is everything all right here? I noticed you seemed upset. I look up at her, this young woman with her crisp uniform and genuine concern, and I realize that she's showing me more kindness than my own family did. I'm fine, I say automatically, then stop. Actually, no, I'm not fine. I was supposed to be on a flight to Denver, but plans changed. Oh no, she says, her voice immediately softening. Did you miss your connection? We can usually get you on the next flight out. It's not that simple, I say, and I can hear the exhaustion in my own voice. I need to figure out how to get home To Phoenix. Of course, she says, pulling out a tablet. Let me see what we can do for you. What's your name? Margaret Williams. Her fingers dance across the screen, and I watch her face change as she reads whatever information comes up. Oh, I see. You were booked on Flight 847 to Denver, but you didn't board. Is there a problem with your ticket? How do I explain that the problem isn't with my ticket, but with my heart? That the people I love most in the world just walked away from me like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. I decided not to take the trip, I say finally. I need to get home instead. I understand, she says, though I doubt she really does. Let me check availability for Phoenix. The next flight out is tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. I can get you on that, but you'll need somewhere to stay tonight. Tomorrow morning. The words echo in my head as I realize I'm going to be alone in this city overnight. I've never been alone in a strange city before. Even during my marriage, when Tom and I traveled, we were always together. After he died, I mostly stopped traveling altogether, except for the few times David invited me to visit. There's a hotel shuttle that runs every 30 minutes. The agent continues. The airport Marriott is nice, and they often have rooms available for situations like this. Harold, who has been listening to our conversation, leans forward. Margaret, do you have someone to call? Someone who can help you figure this out? I think about my address book, sitting on my kitchen table back in Phoenix. My sister lives in Florida, and we only talk on holidays. My few close friends are all back home, and what would I tell them? That my own son abandoned me. The shame of it feels almost as heavy as the hurt. I'll manage, I say, though I'm not sure I believe it. I always have. The gate agent hands me a slip of paper. Here's your new boarding pass for tomorrow morning, and this has the hotel shuttle information. They'll hold your luggage overnight if you need them to. I take the paper, and my hands are steadier now. There's something about having a plan, even a simple one, that makes me feel less like I'm drowning. Thank you, I say to her, and I mean it. You've been very kind. Of course, she says with a warm smile. Travel can be stressful, but you're going to be fine. The hotel has a great restaurant, and the shuttle drivers are all really nice. You'll be comfortable. As she walks away, Harold stands up slowly, leaning on a cane I hadn't noticed before. Margaret, I'm flying out to Portland in a few hours, or I'd offer to buy you dinner. But I want you to know something. I look up at him. This stranger who has shown me more compassion in 20 minutes than my own family did in years. What your son did today, he says, his voice firm but gentle. That's on him, not you. Don't you let anyone make you feel like you're less than you are because of their poor choices. The words hit me like a warm wave, and I feel tears threatening again. But they're different now. Not the desperate tears of abandonment, but something that feels almost like relief. Thank you, Harold, I say. I needed to hear that. He nods and tips his veteran's cap. You take care of yourself, Margaret. And remember, sometimes the best trips are the ones we take alone. As he walks away, I sit back in the uncomfortable airport chair and take my first real breath in hours. The terminal is still buzzing with activity, but it feels different now. Less overwhelming, more like a place where people help each other, where kindness exists even among strangers. I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find the number for my credit card company. The same credit card that paid for the Denver trip. The same card that has my name on it. Not Sarah's, not David's, mine. The customer service representative answers on the third ring. Thank you for calling First National Bank. This is Jennifer. How can I help you today? Hello, Jennifer, I say, and I'm surprised by how clear my voice sounds. I need to report some unauthorized charges on my account. Of course, Mrs. Williams. Let me pull up your account. Can you tell me which charges you're concerned about? I look at my credit card statement on my phone. scrolling through the charges from the past week. The hotel reservations in Denver, the restaurant reservations Sarah made for their sophisticated dinners, the rental car that was supposed to be for all of us. There are several charges for a trip to Denver. I say, I'm no longer taking this trip, and I need to cancel everything and dispute the charges. I understand. Let me look at the details here. I see charges for the Grand Denver Hotel, a rental car reservation, and several restaurant bookings. Are these the charges you're referring to? Yes, exactly those. I can absolutely help you with this, Mrs. Williams. Let me start by freezing your card to prevent any additional charges, and then we can work on disputing these transactions. This will take a few minutes, is that all right? That's perfect, I say, and I realize I'm smiling for the first time in hours. Take all the time you need. As Jennifer works on my account, I watch the people around me. A young couple is arguing quietly about their connection, but even in their stress, they're holding hands. A businessman is pacing while talking on his phone, but he pauses to help an elderly woman lift her suitcase. These small acts of consideration feel profound after what I've just experienced. All right, Mrs. Williams, Jennifer says, bringing my attention back to the phone. I've frozen your current card, and I'm expediting a new one to your home address. It should arrive within 2 business days. I've also started the dispute process for all the Denver charges. Since the trip hasn't happened yet, we should be able to get full refunds on most of these. Thank you, Jennifer. That's exactly what I needed. Is there anything else I can help you with today? I look around the airport, at the hotel shuttle schedule in my hand, at the boarding pass for tomorrow morning's flight home. Actually, yes. I need to book a hotel room for tonight. Somewhere nice. I'd be happy to help with that. Are you looking for something specific? The nicest hotel near the airport, I say without hesitation. I want a room with a view, if possible, and I'd like to upgrade to first class for my flight tomorrow morning. There's a brief pause, and I can hear Jennifer typing. I can definitely help arrange that. Let me look at options for you. As she works, I think about the last time I stayed in a truly nice hotel. It was probably 20 years ago, when Tom and I celebrated our anniversary in San Francisco. We splurged on a room overlooking the bay, and I remember feeling so elegant, so worthy of luxury. I have a few options for you, Mrs. Williams. There's the Grand Hyatt, which has rooms available with city views, and the Ritz-Carlton, which has suites available. Both are about 15 minutes from the airport. The Ritz-Carlton, I say without hesitation. I'll take the suite. Excellent choice. And for your flight tomorrow, I can upgrade you to first class for an additional $200. Would you like me to add that to your new card? Yes, please. And Jennifer, thank you for being so helpful today. You've made a difficult situation much easier. Of course, Mrs. Williams. I'm so sorry you had to deal with this situation, but I'm glad we could get everything sorted out for you. After I hang up, I sit in the quiet for a moment. The airport noise continues around me, but I feel insulated from it, protected by my own decisions and my own strength. I think about David and Sarah, probably sitting in their cramped economy seats right now, probably thinking they've won something by leaving me behind. But what have they actually won? They've lost me. They've lost the woman who would have paid for their dinners, who would have made their trip possible, who would have been grateful just to be included. They've lost the mother and mother-in-law who loved them unconditionally, who supported them even when they made choices I didn't understand. I stand up, my legs steady now, and make my way toward the hotel shuttle pickup area. The airport Marriott shuttle is just pulling up, but I walk past it toward the luxury hotel shuttles. A man in a crisp uniform approaches me. Are you waiting for the Ritz-Carlton shuttle, ma'am? Yes, I am. Perfect timing, he says with a genuine smile. I'm Marcus, and I'll be your driver today. Let me help you with your luggage. As he takes my carry-on, I realize that this is the first time today that someone has offered to help me without me having to ask. It's a small thing, but it feels significant. The shuttle is quiet and comfortable, with leather seats and complimentary water bottles. As we drive through the city, I watch the skyline change from industrial airport surroundings to the glittering lights of downtown. I've never been to this city before, and seeing it now, on my own terms, feels like a small adventure. "First time visiting us?" Marcus asks, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Yes," I say. "Unexpected visit? Well, you picked a great hotel. The Ritz-Carlton here has an amazing restaurant, and the views from the upper floors are spectacular. Are you here for business or pleasure?" I think about his question for a moment. "Self-discovery," I say finally, and the words feel true in a way that surprises me. Marcus nods knowingly. "Those are often the best trips. Sometimes we need to step away from our regular lives to remember who we are." When we arrive at the hotel, I'm struck by its elegance. The lobby is warm and inviting, with soft lighting and fresh flowers. The check-in desk is staffed by people who look genuinely pleased to see me. "Welcome to the Ritz-Carlton, Mrs. Williams," the desk clerk says, consulting his computer. "I see you're staying with us for one night in our executive suite. You're going to love the city view from your room. The suite is beautiful, with a sitting area that looks out over the city lights and a bedroom with the most comfortable bed I've seen in years." I set my purse down on the coffee table and just stand there for a moment, taking it all in. This is what I deserve, I think. Not just the luxury, but the respect, the kindness, the assumption that I'm worth taking care of. The hotel staff has treated me with more consideration in the past hour than my own family has shown me in years. I order room service not because I'm particularly hungry, but because I want to experience being cared for. When the food arrives, the server sets it up on the table by the window, complete with real silverware and a linen napkin. The salmon is perfectly cooked, and the wine is excellent. As I eat, I think about all the times I've made sacrifices for David and Sarah. The time I used my savings to help them with their down payment. The countless babysitting sessions when they wanted to go out. The holidays I hosted, cooking for days to make sure everything was perfect for them. And what did I get in return? The privilege of being abandoned in an airport because I wasn't sophisticated enough for their friends. I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find David's number. My finger hovers over the call button for a long moment. Part of me wants to call him, to make sure he's okay, to apologize for whatever I did wrong. But a stronger part of me, a part that has been growing stronger since I left the airport, knows that I have nothing to apologize for. Instead, I open a new text message. "David, I want you to know that I'm safe and comfortable. I've canceled all the reservations I made for your trip, and I'll be flying home first class tomorrow morning. I hope you and Sarah enjoy Denver. I hope it's everything you wanted it to be without me there. I love you, but I won't be treated this way again. Mom." I read the message 3 times before I send it. It's not angry. It's not pleading. It's just honest. And for the first time in years, I feel proud of something I've said to my son. The response comes within minutes. "Mom, you're being dramatic. We never said you couldn't come. We just thought you might be more comfortable at home." I stare at his text, amazed by the audacity of it. The rewriting of history, the gaslighting, the complete dismissal of what actually happened. The David I raised wouldn't have done this. But the David I raised died somewhere along the way, replaced by this man who thinks love is conditional and family is disposable. I don't respond to his text. There's nothing left to say. Instead, I run a bath in the enormous tub, using the expensive bath salts the hotel provided. The warm water feels like a luxury I've forgotten I deserved. As I soak, I think about Harold, the veteran who showed me kindness when I needed it most. I think about Jennifer, the customer service representative who helped me reclaim my financial independence. I think about Marcus, the shuttle driver who welcomed me to a new city with genuine warmth. These strangers treated me with more respect in a few hours than my own family has shown me in years. What does that say about the family I've been clinging to? I sleep better that night than I have in months. The bed is comfortable, yes, but it's more than that. It's the peace that comes from making decisions based on self-respect rather than fear. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that I stood up for myself. Finally, the next morning I wake early and order breakfast from room service. Fresh fruit, real maple syrup, coffee that tastes like it costs more than I usually spend on groceries in a week. I eat slowly, savoring each bite, looking out at the city as it wakes up. I take my time getting ready, choosing my best outfit, the one I'd planned to wear to the fancy restaurant Sarah had booked for us. I look at myself in the hotel mirror, and I see someone I'd forgotten existed, a woman who deserves to be treated well, who doesn't have to apologize for taking up space, who is complete and valuable just as she is. The first-class lounge at the airport is a revelation. Comfortable seating, complimentary food and drinks, and staff who treat every guest like they matter. I settle into a leather chair with a cup of excellent coffee and a newspaper, watching the other passengers through the large windows. A young mother is struggling with her toddler and multiple bags, and an older businessman gets up to help her with her luggage. A group of teenagers is traveling together, and they include the shy one in their conversation, making sure he doesn't feel left out. These small kindnesses between strangers remind me that most people, most of the time, try to treat each other well. My flight is called, and I board with the first-class passengers. The flight attendant greets me by name and offers me a warm towel and a glass of orange juice. My seat is spacious and comfortable, and I have a window view of the sky. As the plane takes off, I think about what I'm flying toward. My house in Phoenix, yes, but also a new understanding of myself. I'm flying toward a life where I don't have to earn love through sacrifice, where I don't have to apologize for existing, where I can be alone without being lonely. The woman sitting next to me is reading a book about travel, and she notices me looking out the window. "Are you heading home or starting a new adventure?" she asks. "Both," I say, and I realize it's true. During the flight, I make lists in my notebook. Things I want to do, places I want to see, people I want to reconnect with. I write down the names of friends I've lost touch with, because I was so focused on David and Sarah's needs. I write down hobbies I used to enjoy before I became so invested in being the perfect mother and grandmother. I think about the book club I used to belong to, the one I quit, because the meetings conflicted with David's family dinners. I think about the art classes I wanted to take, the ones I never signed up for because I was always waiting for the next family crisis that would require my attention. What if I'd spent the last 5 years building a life that didn't revolve around earning my son's approval? What if I'd been traveling, learning, growing, instead of shrinking myself to fit into their narrow definition of what a mother should be? The flight attendant offers me lunch, and I accept the salmon with a side of asparagus. As I eat, I think about all the meals I've cooked for David and Sarah, all the times I've stood in my kitchen preparing food for people who barely thanked me for it. This meal, prepared by someone else and served to me with kindness, feels like a gift. The woman next to me is chatting with the flight attendant about her daughter's wedding, and I find myself listening to their conversation. She's excited about the event, but not anxious about it. She's not worried about whether she's good enough, sophisticated enough, worthy enough to be there. She's just happy to be part of her daughter's special day. I wonder what it would feel like to have that kind of relationship with my own child. Not the desperate, walking on eggshells dynamic I've had with David, but something easy and natural, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. As we begin our descent into Phoenix, I look out at the desert landscape I've called home for 40 years. The mountains are purple in the distance, and the city sprawls out below us, familiar and welcoming. I'm coming home, but I'm coming home different than I left. The pilot announces our arrival and I gather my things. The first-class passengers are allowed to deplane first, and I walk through the airport with my head high, my carry-on rolling smoothly behind me. I'm not rushing, not anxious, not worried about what comes next. My phone buzzes with a text from David. "Mom, we need to talk when you get home. Sarah thinks you overreacted." I read the message and then delete it without responding. There's nothing to discuss. They made their choice at Gate 12, and I made mine at the Ritz-Carlton. The ride home in the taxi is quiet, the driver respectful of my contemplative mood. As we pull into my driveway, I see my house with new eyes. It's a good house, well-maintained, comfortable. It's a house where I can be myself without judgment, where I can make decisions based on what I want, rather than what others expect. I unlock my front door and step inside, and the silence doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels full of possibility. I drop my bags in the hallway and walk through the rooms, reacquainting myself with my space. The family photos on the mantel seem different now, less like shrines to relationships that drain me, and more like memories of a time when I didn't know my own worth. I make myself a cup of tea and sit in my favorite chair, the one David always said was too old and needed to be replaced. It's comfortable, worn in all the right places, and it holds me like an old friend. My phone rings, and I see David's name on the display. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rings again, and again. Each time I let it ring, I'm not ready to talk to him yet, and I may never be ready to talk to him the way we used to talk, with me apologizing for things I didn't do, and him accepting those apologies as his due. Finally, I turn off the phone and set it aside. The silence in my house is complete now, unbroken by the desperate need to be available for people who don't value my availability. I walk to my bedroom and change into comfortable clothes, then sit at my desk to write. I've always been a writer, though I've never called myself that. I've written letters, journals, school reports back when I was working. But I've never written for myself, about myself, with the intention of understanding my own story. Dear Margaret, I write, addressing myself like a friend. Today you learned something important about love and worthiness. You learned that love isn't supposed to hurt, that family isn't supposed to make you feel small, that you don't have to earn your place in the world by making yourself less than you are. I write for hours, telling myself the story of what happened, but also the story of what I've learned. I write about Harold's kindness, about Jennifer's professionalism, about Marcus's warmth. I write about the difference between being alone and being lonely, about the peace that comes from making decisions based on self-respect. As evening approaches, I realize I haven't thought about David and Sarah in hours. I haven't wondered where they are, what they're doing, whether they're thinking about me. For the first time in years, I've gone an entire day without organizing my thoughts around someone else's needs. I make myself dinner, a simple meal that I eat slowly, savoring each bite. I pour myself a glass of wine and sit on my back porch, watching the desert sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The beauty of it takes my breath away, and I realize I haven't really looked at a sunset in years. I've been too busy, too worried, too focused on other people's happiness to notice the beauty that's been right in front of me all along. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, waves to me from her garden. She's a widow, too, and we've exchanged pleasantries over the years but never really talked. Tonight, something in her wave seems like an invitation, and I find myself walking over to the fence that separates our yards. beautiful evening," she says, straightening up from her tomato plants. "It really is," I agree. "I don't think I've noticed a sunset in years." She smiles knowingly. "I went through a period like that after my husband died. Too busy grieving to notice that life was still happening all around me. How did you get through it?" "I started gardening," she says, gesturing to her flourishing backyard. "Something about nurturing things that grow, about being responsible for beauty instead of just consuming it. It reminded me that I was still alive, still capable of creating something good." We talk for another hour, about gardening, about loss, about the challenge of reinventing yourself later in life. She tells me about the book club she belongs to, the one that meets at the community center every Wednesday. She tells me about the cooking class she's taking, the volunteer work she does at the animal shelter. "Would you like to come to book club this week?" she asks. "We're discussing Educated by Tara Westover. It's about a woman who had to learn to trust her own experiences over her family's version of reality. The synchronicity of it makes me laugh." "I'd love to come," I say. "I think I need to read that book." That night I sleep deeply and dreamlessly. I wake up refreshed, not to the sound of my phone ringing with some family crisis, but to the sound of birds outside my window. I make coffee and sit in my sunroom, planning my day around my own desires for the first time in years. I call the bank to check on my dispute case, and Jennifer updates me on the progress. Most of the charges will be reversed within the week. I call the community college to ask about their art classes, and I register for a watercolor course that starts next month. I call my sister in Florida, the one I only talk to on holidays, and we have a real conversation for the first time in years. "You sound different, Margaret," she says. "Lighter. I feel different," I tell her. "I feel like I'm remembering who I am." 3 days pass before David calls again. This time I answer. "Mom, what the hell is going on? You've been ignoring my calls. You canceled all our reservations. And Sarah is furious about the credit card thing." His voice is petulant, like a child who's been denied a toy. There's no concern for my well-being, no acknowledgement of what happened at the airport, no apology for abandoning me. Just irritation that I've disrupted his plans. "Hello, David," I say calmly. "I'm fine. Thank you for asking. I'm at home, safe and sound, and I've been having a lovely few days." "Don't be sarcastic, Mom. You know why I'm calling. You can't just cancel everything and storm off like that. We had plans." "You had plans," I correct him. "You made it very clear that those plans didn't include me. That's not what happened, and you know it. We just thought, I know exactly what happened, David. I was there. I was the one standing at gate 12 while you and Sarah laughed about how I didn't fit with your sophisticated friends." There's a pause, and I can hear him thinking, probably trying to figure out how to reframe the situation to make me the villain. "You're being overdramatic," he says finally. "We never said you couldn't come. We just suggested that you might be more comfortable at home. By telling me I was too unsophisticated for your friends, by laughing at me when I asked you to explain what was happening, by walking away from me at the airport. I didn't laugh at you." "Yes, David, you did. You laughed when Sarah whispered something about me being difficult. You laughed like my pain was funny to you." Another pause. I can picture him in his kitchen, probably pacing, probably frustrated that I'm not immediately backing down and apologizing. "Look, Mom, Sarah's really upset about this whole thing. She thinks you're trying to sabotage our marriage. The absurdity of it almost makes me laugh. How is refusing to be mistreated sabotaging your marriage? You know how Sarah is. She's sensitive about family dynamics. Sarah is sensitive about anything that doesn't center her as the most important person in the room," I say, and I'm surprised by the clarity in my own voice. But that's not my problem anymore, David. I'm done walking on eggshells around her insecurities. Mom, that's not fair. Sarah has been nothing but kind to you. The rewriting of history is breathtaking. I think about all the times Sarah has made subtle digs about my clothes, my house, my cooking. All the times she's corrected me in front of others, made me feel small and outdated. All the family gatherings where she's monopolized conversations and made it clear that my opinions didn't matter. David, I've been kind to Sarah for 15 years. I've welcomed her into our family, supported your marriage, helped you financially when you needed it. I've bitten my tongue when she's been dismissive or rude. I've made excuses for her behavior because I love you. But kindness should go both ways. She's never been rude to you. She abandoned me at an airport, David. She told me I wasn't sophisticated enough for her friends. She laughed when I was confused and hurt. If that's not rude, I don't know what is. I can hear him breathing on the other end of the line, and I wonder if any part of him remembers the man I raised. The boy who used to come to me when he was hurt, who used to value my opinion, who used to treat me like I mattered. I think you need to apologize to Sarah, he says finally. This whole thing has been really hard on her. The words hit me like a physical blow. After everything that's happened, after being abandoned and humiliated, he wants me to apologize to the woman who orchestrated it all. No, I say simply. No. No, David. I will not apologize to Sarah. I will not apologize for being hurt when my own family abandoned me. I will not apologize for standing up for myself. I will not apologize for refusing to be treated like I'm disposable. Mom, you're being unreasonable. I'm being reasonable for the first time in years. I'm finally treating myself the way I deserve to be treated. And how's that working out for you? Are you happy being alone? The question is meant to hurt, meant to remind me of my greatest fear. But as I sit in my comfortable house, surrounded by the peace I've created for myself, I realize that his weapon has lost its power. Yes, I say, and I mean it. I am happy being alone. I'm happier alone than I was trying to earn love from people who don't value me. That's not true. It is true, David. And the saddest part is that you'll never understand why. There's a long silence, and I can hear the weight of everything unsaid between us. The years of me making myself smaller to fit into his life. The years of him taking my love for granted. The years of both of us pretending that our relationship was healthy when it was slowly killing the person I used to be. I don't know what's gotten into you, he says finally. This isn't like you. No, it's not like the me you're used to. The me you're used to would have apologized by now. She would have begged for forgiveness for something she didn't do. She would have promised to be better, to be less, to take up less space in your life. I never asked you to be less. You didn't have to ask. You made it clear every time you dismissed my opinions, every time you chose Sarah's comfort over my inclusion, every time you treated me like an obligation rather than a person you love. I do love you, Mom. The words hang in the air between us, and I want to believe them. Part of me will always want to believe them. But love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. And his choices have spoken louder than his words. I love you too, David. But I won't be treated badly because of that love. Not anymore. So what are you saying? That we can't have a relationship? I'm saying that we can't have the relationship we used to have. The one where I give everything and you take everything. The one where I apologize for existing and you accept those apologies as your due. That's not how it was. That's exactly how it was. And if you can't see that, then maybe we don't have anything to build on. After I hang up, I sit in the quiet of my house and cry. Not the desperate, broken tears of abandonment, but the complex tears of grief and relief mixed together. I'm grieving the son I thought I had, the relationship I thought we shared, But I'm also feeling the relief of finally telling the truth, of finally refusing to participate in my own diminishment. Mrs. Chen's book club meets on Wednesday, and I arrive early, nervous, but determined. The community center is warm and welcoming, and the other members greet me with genuine kindness. They're women of various ages, from different backgrounds, but they all share an enthusiasm for reading and discussing ideas. "We're so glad you could join us," says Ellen, the group's organizer. "Margaret Chen told us you might be interested in our little group." As we discuss Educated, I'm struck by how many of the themes resonate with my own experience. The difficulty of trusting your own perceptions when your family tells you they're wrong. The courage it takes to build a life that's different from what others expect. The loneliness of growing beyond the people who raised you. "I think one of the most powerful things about this book," says Linda, a retired teacher, "is how it shows that sometimes loving someone means disappointing them. Sometimes being true to yourself means letting other people down." The words hit me like a revelation. I've spent so much of my life trying not to disappoint David, trying to be the mother he wanted rather than the person I am. But what if disappointing him is exactly what I need to do? After book club, several of the women invite me to join them for coffee. We sit in a small cafe, discussing books and life, and I realize I haven't had female friendships like this in years. I've been so focused on being the perfect mother that I forgot how to be a friend, how to have relationships that aren't based on caretaking. "You seem like you're going through a transition," observes Carol, a woman about my age who divorced her husband after 30 years of marriage. "There's something about the way you talk about family that sounds familiar." I find myself telling them about what happened at the airport, about the years of walking on eggshells, about the slow erosion of my self-worth. They listen without judgment, sharing their own stories of difficult family relationships, of learning to set boundaries, of discovering who they are outside of their roles as wives and mothers. "The hardest part," Carol says, "is realizing that some people in your life love the role you play for them more than they love you as a person. And when you stop playing that role, you find out who really cares about you." Over the following weeks, I begin to build a new life. I start the watercolor class and discover that I have a talent for capturing light and shadow. I volunteer at the animal shelter, where dogs and cats love me simply because I'm kind to them, with no agenda or expectation beyond basic care. I reconnect with old friends, women I lost touch with during my years of focusing entirely on David's needs. Many of them have gone through similar experiences: children who take without giving, families who drain rather than nourish. We share our stories over lunch, over coffee, over long phone calls that leave me feeling understood and valued. David calls occasionally, always with the same request: that I apologize to Sarah, that I acknowledge I was wrong, that I return to the role of grateful supplicant in their lives. Each time I decline politely but firmly. Each time his frustration grows. "You're being stubborn," he tells me during one of these calls. "Sarah's willing to forgive you if you just admit you overreacted." "There's nothing to forgive," I tell him. "I was abandoned by my family, and I responded by taking care of myself. That's not an overreaction. That's self-preservation. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm making it exactly as hard as it needs to be. Change is hard, David. Growth is hard. But it's necessary." 3 months after the airport incident, I receive a call from Sarah directly. It's the first time she's called me in years. "Margaret, I think we need to talk." Her voice is different, less imperious than usual. There's something almost vulnerable in her tone, though I don't trust it entirely. "Hello, Sarah. How are you?" "I'm fine. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding about what happened at the airport. I never meant to hurt your feelings. The non-apology is exactly what I expected. No acknowledgement of what actually happened. No taking responsibility for her actions. Just a vague suggestion that I misunderstood something. I understand perfectly what happened. I say calmly. You decided I wasn't sophisticated enough for your friends, and you and David left me at the airport. There's no misunderstanding. That's not... it wasn't like that. I was just trying to spare your feelings. I thought you might be uncomfortable with my family, so you made the decision for me. You decided what I could handle without asking me. I was trying to be considerate. Considerate would have been including me in the conversation. Considerate would have been letting me make my own choices about my comfort level. Considerate would have been treating me like an adult capable of making decisions about my own life. There's a pause, and I can hear her thinking, probably trying to figure out how to regain control of the narrative. David misses you, she says finally. He's been really sad about this whole situation. David knows how to reach me. He calls regularly. But you won't apologize. You won't admit that you might have been wrong. I wasn't wrong, Sarah. I was hurt, and I responded by protecting myself. That's not wrong. That's healthy. But you ruined our trip. You canceled all the reservations, froze the credit card. We had to scramble to rebook everything. The audacity of it takes my breath away. She's actually complaining about the inconvenience of having to pay for their own vacation after abandoning the person who was funding it. I paid for that trip, Sarah. When you decided I couldn't come, you lost the right to use my money for your entertainment. But we're family. Family doesn't abandon each other in airports. Family doesn't make unilateral decisions about who gets to be included. Family doesn't laugh at each other's pain. I never laughed at you. You whispered something to David that made him laugh while I was standing there confused and hurt. Maybe you didn't laugh out loud, but you certainly found my distress amusing. Another pause. I can picture her probably sitting in the kitchen I helped them afford. Probably frustrated that her usual manipulation tactics aren't working. What do you want from us, Margaret? What would it take to fix this? The question surprises me because it suggests she might actually be willing to acknowledge some wrongdoing. But then I realize it's just another manipulation, another way of trying to get me to make the first move, to be the one who compromises. I want you to understand what you did wrong, I say. I want you to acknowledge that abandoning me at the airport was cruel. I want you to apologize sincerely, not just try to make me feel like I misunderstood something. I want you to commit to treating me with basic respect going forward. That's a lot to ask. It's the bare minimum of what families should expect from each other. And if we can't do that, then we don't have a relationship. And that's okay with me. The silence stretches between us, and I can feel her processing the fact that I'm not going to back down, that I'm not going to make this easy for her. I'll talk to David, she says finally. You do that. After she hangs up, I sit with the conversation, examining how I feel about it. There's no desperation, no anxiety about whether she'll follow through. I've said what I needed to say, and whatever happens next is their choice. I think about the woman I was 6 months ago, the one who would have apologized immediately just to restore peace, the one who would have convinced herself that maintaining the relationship was more important than maintaining her dignity. That woman is gone, replaced by someone who understands that peace without respect is just another form of suffering. That evening I attend a pottery class at the community center. My hands are covered in clay, and I'm learning to shape something beautiful from raw material. The metaphor isn't lost on me. I'm learning to reshape my life from the raw material of my authentic self. You're getting good at this, says James, the instructor. There's something very zen about working with clay. It teaches you patience with the process. As I work, I think about patience. I've been patient with David and Sarah for years. But it was the wrong kind of patience. It was the patience of someone who was afraid to rock the boat, afraid to ask for what she needed. Now I'm learning a different kind of patience. The patience of someone who trusts the process of growth and change. 6 months after the airport incident, David calls with a different tone in his voice. "Mom, can we talk? Really talk?" "Of course. I've been thinking about what happened. About what you said about, how I treated you." I wait, not rushing to fill the silence, not making it easy for him. "I think maybe you were right about some things. I think maybe I haven't been a very good son." The admission surprises me, though I'm careful not to show too much enthusiasm. I've learned to be cautious about David's moments of insight, because they're often followed by backsliding. "What made you think about that?" "Sarah and I have been having problems. She's been treating me the way I think maybe I've been treating you. Like I'm not important unless I'm useful to her. I feel a complex mix of emotions. Sadness that he's experiencing pain, but also a kind of grim satisfaction that he's finally understanding what it feels like to be diminished by someone who claims to love you. I'm sorry you're going through that," I say. And I mean it. It's painful when someone you love treats you like you're disposable. Is that how I made you feel? Disposable? The question is asked with genuine curiosity, not defensiveness, and I can hear the son I raised in it. Sometimes, yes. Especially when you chose Sarah's comfort over my inclusion, when you dismissed my feelings as over-dramatic, when you expected me to apologize for being hurt. I didn't realize I was doing that. I know you didn't. But not realizing doesn't make it less hurtful. We talk for over an hour, and for the first time in years, I feel like I'm talking to my son, rather than to a stranger wearing his face. He asks questions about how I've been, what I've been doing, how I'm feeling. He listens to my answers without trying to fix or dismiss them. "I miss you, Mom," he says finally. "I miss having you in my life. I miss you too, David. But I can't go back to the way things were. I won't make myself smaller to fit into your life anymore. I don't want you to be smaller. I want you to be you. I want to know who you are when you're not worried about making me happy." The words give me hope, but I'm still cautious. Change is hard, and old patterns die slowly. "That's going to take time," I tell him. "And it's going to require you to see me as a person, not just as your mother. Not just as someone whose job it is to support you. I want to try. I want to do better. Then we'll take it slow. We'll rebuild this relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, rather than obligation." Over the following months, David and I begin to have regular conversations. He tells me about his work, his struggles with Sarah, his growing understanding of how toxic their relationship has become. I share my new activities, my friendships, my growing sense of self-worth. It's not always easy. Sometimes he slips back into old patterns, expecting me to drop everything when he calls, assuming I'll provide emotional support without reciprocation. But when I point out these behaviors, he apologizes and adjusts. He's learning slowly to see me as a whole person rather than just a role in his life. Sarah, meanwhile, has become increasingly desperate to restore the old dynamic. She calls periodically, alternating between fake sweetness and barely concealed hostility. She sends cards on holidays, always signed "Love, Sarah and David," as if David can't speak for himself. She makes Facebook posts about the importance of family, clearly directed at me. But I'm immune to her manipulation now. I've learned to recognize the difference between genuine love and emotional blackmail. I've learned that I don't have to accept poor treatment just because it comes from family. A year after the airport incident, I'm sitting in my garden, reading a book from my book club, when my phone rings. It's David, and his voice is shaky. "Mom, Sarah and I are getting divorced." I set down my book and focus entirely on his voice. "I'm sorry, David. How are you feeling about that? Scared, sad, but also relieved? Is that terrible? It's not terrible. It's honest. Sometimes relationships become so toxic that ending them is the healthiest choice for everyone involved. She's been saying terrible things about you in counseling, blaming you for our problems, saying you turned me against her. I didn't turn you against anyone, David. I just stopped accepting poor treatment, and that made the dysfunction in your relationship more visible. I know. I can see that now. I can see how she manipulates situations, how she makes everything about her needs, how she punishes anyone who doesn't center her in their lives. It's hard to see those patterns when you're in the middle of them. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for how I let her treat you, for abandoning you at that airport. I'm sorry for taking 15 years to understand what you were trying to tell me. The apology is everything I hoped for and more. It's specific, it's sincere, and it comes from genuine understanding rather than a desire to restore the status quo. Thank you, David. That means everything to me. Can we try again? Can we try to have a real relationship, one where I actually show up for you the way you've always shown up for me? I'd like that, I tell him. I'd like that very much. We spend the next hour talking about what that might look like. He asks about my life, my friends, my interests. He listens when I tell him about my art classes, my volunteer work, my book club. He seems genuinely interested in who I am outside of my role as his mother. I want to meet your friends, he says. I want to see your paintings. I want to know the person you've become. I'd like that too. But David, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to go back to being the person I was. I'm not going to make myself smaller to make you more comfortable. I'm not going to apologize for having needs and boundaries. I don't want you to go back. I want to know who you are now, who you've always been underneath all the ways you diminished yourself for us. A few weeks later, David drives down from his apartment in Scottsdale to have dinner with me and meet Mrs. Chen. We eat in my backyard, under the string lights I hung up last spring, and I watch him interact with my neighbor like she's a real person rather than just an extension of me. Your mom talks about you all the time, Mrs. Chen tells him. She's very proud of you. She is. David looks surprised, and I realize that, in his mind, my recent boundary setting meant I'd stopped loving him. He couldn't conceive of love that included accountability. Of course I am, I tell him. I'm proud of your work, your intelligence, your capacity for growth. I'm proud that you were able to recognize dysfunction in your marriage and take steps to address it. I'm proud that you're here, trying to rebuild our relationship. But I hurt you so badly. Yes, you did. But that doesn't erase 37 years of love. It just means we have to rebuild trust, and that takes time. We talk until late, and when he leaves, he hugs me longer than he has in years. I love you, Mom, he says. The real you, not the version that tiptoed around my feelings all the time. I love you too, David. I always have. As I watch him drive away, I think about the journey that brought us here. The humiliation of being abandoned at Gate 12, the luxury of the Ritz-Carlton, the first-class flight home, the months of building a life that didn't revolve around earning his approval. All of it was necessary to get to this moment, this genuine connection between two adults who are choosing to love each other rather than simply going through the motions of family. I think about Sarah, probably sitting in her own apartment somewhere, probably still convinced that she was the victim in all of this. I feel sorry for her, because she'll never understand what she lost when she chose cruelty over kindness. She'll never know what it feels like to be loved for who you are, rather than what you provide. But mostly, I think about myself, about the woman who stood at Gate 12, confused and heartbroken, and the woman who sits in her garden tonight, complete and content. They're the same person, but One of them knew her worth and the other was still learning it. I go inside and make myself a cup of tea, the good stuff I used to save for special occasions. Every day is a special occasion now, because every day is an opportunity to treat myself with the respect I deserve. I sit in my favorite chair, the one David used to criticize, and I feel perfectly at home in my own life. The silence in my house isn't empty anymore. It's full of possibility, full of peace, full of the knowledge that I am enough, just as I am. I don't need anyone else's approval to validate my existence. I don't need to make myself smaller to make others comfortable. I don't need to apologize for taking up space in the world. I am 72 years old, and I am finally free. Free from the exhausting work of earning love that should have been freely given. Free from the constant worry about whether I'm good enough, sophisticated enough, worthy enough. Free from the fear of being alone, because I've learned that there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. The people who abandoned me at Gate 12 thought they were punishing me, but they actually set me free. They thought they were showing me my place, but they helped me find my power. They thought they were teaching me that I was disposable, but they taught me that I am invaluable. I raise my teacup in a silent toast to the woman I've become, to the life I've built, to the courage it took to choose dignity over desperation. I toast to Gate 12, where I learned that sometimes the best journeys are the ones we take alone, and that sometimes the most profound destinations are the ones we find within ourselves. Tomorrow I'll wake up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by the life I've created for myself. I'll have coffee with Mrs. Chen, work on my watercolor painting, maybe call one of my book club friends. I'll live a day that's entirely my own, shaped by my choices, my values, my understanding of what makes life worth living. And if David calls, I'll answer, because we're building something real now, something based on mutual respect rather than obligation. But if he doesn't call, that's okay too, because my happiness doesn't depend on his attention anymore. I am no longer afraid to be alone, because I've learned that the real isolation belongs to those who confuse love with control, who mistake manipulation for affection, who choose cruelty over kindness. They are the ones who will spend their lives wondering why their relationships feel empty, why their love feels conditional, why they can never find the peace that comes from accepting others as they are. I have found that peace. I have found it in my garden, in my friendships, in my art, in my volunteer work, in my books, in my quiet moments of self-reflection. I have found it in the revolutionary act of treating myself with kindness, in the radical choice to believe that I am worthy of love and respect just as I am. The airport was just the beginning. The real journey started when I chose to see my abandonment not as proof of my unworthiness, but as evidence of their limitations. The real journey started when I decided to stop making myself smaller and started learning to take up the space I deserve in this world. And it's been the most beautiful journey of my life.